Hey you guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ayana. For you guys who are new here, I run a candle business by the name of Soyaya, and on this channel we talk all about making candles and starting up your candle business. I get a lot of questions about what type of jar can I use. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys just a few of my tips and things that I think you should consider when you are choosing a candle vessel or candle jar for your business. First up, you want to choose a heat sustainable jar, glass vessel, whatever. A lot of times we just choose a jar or we just go with what we see other people using, but you got to make sure that your jar is going to be heat sustainable. Not all of us are getting our jars from vendors or we're sourcing them through a candle company already. Some of us thrift our jars, some get them directly from stores like Hobby Lobby, Dollar General, Target. You have all these places that sell jars as well. If you're thrifting your candle jars, you should always be testing anything before you sell them to anybody, but you can always reach out to the company to say, hey, are these jars sustainable for heat? Can I make candles in these jars? Because sometimes we see those really cool fun videos where people are just like thrifting just jars from their local thrift store, and then they're just putting candles in whatever. And the best way obviously is going to be to test, but before you even want to test and you want to just make sure, just in case anything was to like crack or explode on you, you can definitely reach out to the company and find out if those jars are going to be heat sustainable. Another thing that you want to do when you are choosing jars for your candle business, choose jars that represent your candle brand, because this is what your customers are going to be seeing from you. Like when they look at your jars, they're not going to automatically know what the mission statement of your brand is. They're not going to automatically know like what type of brand or what you're trying to promote. They're just seeing a jar, and you want something that represents your company as a whole. So I'll just do myself for example. So I have a minimalist company, but it's centered around wellness, and obviously my jars are very minimalist. That's something that I want to change. Not necessarily change, still going to be minimalist, still going to be centered around wellness, but I kind of want to give like a little bit more. I'm really over like the neutral tones, and obviously that represents like wellness for me at the time. Like a lot of the sages, the browns, the neutral earth tones, which were just like calming. That's why I chose them. But I definitely want to like incorporate different things in my brand, whatever, but you guys will see that in the very near future. But what I mean by choosing a jar that's going to represent your brand, so I'm just going to we'll use the Barbie theme as an example, just because that movie is getting ready to come out and I love Issa. I just finished watching, so off topic, but I just finished rewatching Insecure, and that show just hits so differently when you're almost 30. So I was triggered by so many parts. I was just like, this is not the same show that I had watched years ago. So when I think of the Barbie theme, when I see those candles, you think of a lot of like pink, chic, girly, super just in your face, very preppy, and jars that emulate that to me would be like pink jars, crystal jars. And obviously your brand is not going to be Barbie, but let's just say that you have like a brand that's super like colorful, and you're like catering to like very artsy and that retro color theme. You want to have candle jars that are gonna pop and that are gonna represent that. Me, again, minimalist, like I have the white jars, very solid, and that way I could do whatever I wanted to with the label. That's another thing too, like your label should definitely enhance your candle jars, like by far. So I think it's always going to be up to you and your preference. I think a lot of times when people are asking like what type of jar or vessel can I use, they're mostly saying like, is this going to be safe for me to use? There are some out there that aren't safe for you to use, so you just have to kind of do your research on them. And if you just aren't sure, or if you can't find any information on that, then just go ahead and then just do a tester candle. That's probably going to be the best way for you to find out if the jar is going to be suitable for you to use. Kind of want to just go back to making sure that your jars are representing your brand, because I think for me, like with the whole minimalist thing, I felt like my creativity I wasn't able to really like peak with that. It's super minimalist, didn't really have to do much, and now I'm kind of wanting to like show like more of my creativity, and I feel like I can still have a minimalist brand, but there's definitely more things that I can add to it to definitely spruce up, so this can continue to be a fun creative thing for me to do. And that's what we do as creatives. Sometimes you just got to go back to the drawing board. Like, you don't have to completely change everything, but just like incorporating those little small changes, or just changing up your jars, or adding more color, or whatever you feel is necessary, can really just take your business over the top. So when you're choosing your different type of jars, and this is something you should do in the beginning when you're like choosing your candle vendors, you want to make sure that you're choosing different vendors that are near you. So if, like for me, I'm on the East Coast, I'm going to mostly be looking up candle vendors that are on the East Coast, because that's going to play a huge part into when it comes to the shipping. All those candle jars weigh really heavily, and as we see with the shipping rates, they have changed since I've been in the candle making business, and it's been about 2.5 years now. And when I first came in, like, shipping was not as expensive as it is now. It gradually was going up when I first came in, but it was just not what it is now. And so you want to also consider, if you're not, you know, sourcing yourself like through Alibaba or AliExpress or something like that, but if you're choosing a candle vendor who already has those candle vessels, you should probably choose something that's going to be closer to you. I know for me, my candle vendor, I'm contradicting myself here, but my candle vendor is on the West Coast, and they give me a really great deal. Could I find something that's closer to me? Absolutely. It just takes a lot of research, and there's some nights where I'm literally on my computer till like 4 or 5 in the morning. Like, candle making and coming back and rebranding myself like has consumed me so much. I'm super excited, but I really just want to make sure that I'm doing everything that just like makes sense. And to me, like, having my candle vendor all the way in the West Coast just doesn't make sense anymore. Are they fast with shipping? Absolutely. But am I paying the same cost of shipping as I could another batch of candles or like inventory for my business? Yes. Realistically and financially, it just doesn't make sense. So if you're in the Midwest, try to look up more Midwest vendors, or if you're on the West Coast vendors, so forth like that. First started out and I was looking for different vessels and jars to use. I just went and got like sample jars from different companies that I felt really liked, or they really like fit my brand, or they were the colors that I like. Just buy sample jars. Like, you don't have to go out there and buy a plethora of candle jars that you possibly may not even use. Get a couple different ones, test it out. And to me, like, it really was fun to do that, because I got to see how different jars, like how the wax like burned in different jars, how they looked in different jars. Or, you know, once you see something physically in your hand, sometimes it looks completely different than what it does when you're looking at it online. So definitely just get a couple different sample jars that you feel like will fit your brand, and then go from there. And then you can do like your process of elimination, and that's gonna really narrow it down so that you can like physically touch things and physically like feel like the heaviness of it and just the overall like look of it too. Then you start doing like the breakdown cost and all that, which will come a little later once you like choose your jars. But choosing your jar is, to me, is like one of the funnest parts, because that's like the part that matters, because that's what people are going to see. Like, that's the product you're selling. Whether you have jars that stand out, that are super colorful, or you have jars like me that's super minimalist, like how you market yourself and the labels that you put on it and what your brand stands for, all that eventually comes together. And also too, you're gonna notice there's just so many different jars out there. You have your cemented jars, you have your glass jars, you have your ceramic jars, you have so many different jars. And then as you buy jars from different companies, you may realize, like, you know what, I can make these. Like, we see so many people making their candle jars, which I think is so cool. That's one thing that I always wanted to do, but I just don't feel like I have like the time to do that. That definitely will put me back in a way. So I'm just not ready to make my own jars. But eventually, do I feel like maybe I can make a few on the side? Absolutely. Love that. I so much respect for everyone who makes their own jars, because it's really cool. So there's just so many different ways you can go about choosing your jars. So definitely, I don't think this is a process that you should rush. I think there's so many different candle suppliers that are out there that you should really take your time. Price points should play a part into it, you know, where your candle supplier, where they're located, all those things play a huge role into how you're going to choose your candle jar. And after that, once you've decided what type of jar you want to use, like, that's truly where the fun begins, and you just it really gets so much better after that. Well, that's my little take on how to go about choosing your candle vessel and your candle jars. As always, you have any additional questions, don't be afraid to write me down in the comments section, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.